One more question on this theme, and we could chat about it forever long we want. But one question I wanted to make sure I asked was, the relationship between justice and evangelism has always been a deep relationship. But I think in particular with Gen Z and this generation, the way their lens is towards the world and where they're watching the church, asking this question, like, are you at all relevant? Or like, is this relevant to me at all? Can you help us just frame that relationship between justice and evangelism in the context of this emerging generation?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would say, Dr. Cornel West is my favorite. He says it the best, where he says, justice is love in public. And I love that, justice is a demonstration of love in a public form. And I would say that what this generation, I would even say my generation and your generation, and then the generation after you, I think are increasingly saying the same thing, which is we don't just want a theology of love, we want a demonstration of love. So we want an incarnated theology, which is actually a beautiful desire because it's exactly what God wants too. So I feel like the hunger and thirst within a generation to see a demonstrated, incarnated theology, like a lived out demonstration of what it is we say we believe, which is reconciliation, which is the lonely in families, which is justice, right? Love in public, which is equality and empowerment. It's all these things. That's what we say we believe. I mean, just make a list of things you say you believe. All we want is to see that it's true, that what you believe is real, and that the realness of your belief is not somewhere because it's good theology. The realness, the depth, the power of your belief is because it's lived. And this is always true, by the way. This is where all the power has always been. That's why Jesus showed up in human form. Otherwise, he would have just given us another few commandments to follow, chiseled in stone by somebody else. But he lived out the practices and purposes of God in real life to show us how to do this. So this is the deepest desire of this generation, is the deepest desire of God himself. I think it's a beautiful mix. And I don't know why this has been so difficult. I think maybe it's just because it's more difficult to live out your theology than to actually hold it. To think it is so much easier than to live it. But I would say this is always a calling of good discipleship. So this is what that generation wants. So when you mentioned that conference in YC, where I did that talk is cheap, love has feet. And what really bothered me then, that was, I don't know how many years ago that was, Jason, like 6 or 7 or 8.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
It was a while ago. And I remember I was doing an inner city outreach to women on the street. Of course, all these Aboriginal girls, young girls were missing all across Canada, by the way, but in Edmonton specifically. And no one could give a crap. Like nobody cared. The police wouldn't even open files about it. It is such an indictment on our racist system in Canada. If anyone says Canada isn't racist, I could talk to you for hours and give you specific examples of people that I love who have suffered from racism. But they just literally, they were just like, nobody cares because they're Indigenous young women that are being trafficked and nobody cares. Over 80% of prostituted women in Canada are Indigenous, by the way. And they're not even 2% of the population. So you do the math. So anyway, I was really ticked off because I'd go to YC and there'd be all these, 16,000 kids worshiping and praising. And then on the same exact street, a few hours later, I would go out with a team of people and we would pick up girls off the street. And it seemed like those two things didn't connect. And it bothered me that we could have 16,000 people saying that Jesus was Lord, that people mattered. They get all fired up about justice and mercy. And then 2 hours later, there'd be zero difference in that neighborhood. And so I just talked to Mike Love and said, look, this isn't enough, this arena gathering. Like, this isn't it. Like, I know this has been working for 20 years, but I think that it's time to leave the building. You know what I mean? Like, there's time to sort of get out of the safety of this environment. And so he was pretty, he was like, I don't know, but I'll tell you what, Danielle, why don't you just do a breakout and give us an idea. So that's what I announced on the Friday night. I said, love is cheap, talk is cheap, love has feet. If anybody wants to join me during the breakout. Now he had put the breakout at the same time as all the big bands, right? So it's like, there was a lot to choose from. All the big band breakouts, or you could go with Danielle on a prayer walk of the inner city. And, 1,500 kids showed up to prayer walk. We thought there'd be like 20. I thought there'd be like a remnant of kids that were like, sure. Even if all it was they just felt guilty. I thought maybe I could stir up 50 kids.
Take the guilt, turn it to something meaningful.
Yeah. and 1,500 kids showed up. I mean, it was panic.
Amazing.
I didn't have the right permits. I mean, it was like a night. I was like, oh no, this is wow. I wasn't prepared, which shame on me for not sensing that not only was God in this invitation, but also there's a whole generation of kids that want to do it. They
Wow.
want to show up. You want to get kids to show up. You know what I mean? You want to inspire a generation to follow Jesus, then give them something that has to do with justice. It's what it is, the new evangelism. It's what the gospel looks like in real life.